Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the Coaching Ed podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the pleasure to talk to Laura West. Hello, Laura. Welcome.
Hi there.
Thank you for being here, and welcome here, Steve, of course. Welcome. So, Laura, we could try to introduce yourself, but we're sure that you know yourself much better than we do. So, who is Laura? How did she come in coaching? What does she do nowadays in coaching?
Gotcha. That's a 25-year conversation. So yeah, I'm Laura West. I'm the founder of Joyful Business. And I was in, I did the start journey where I was in corporate before. I was VP of marketing and went through 6 buyouts and mergers in 5 years.
Wow.
It was a lot. And so I got to a place where I was burned out. I had lost my passion. And if you're in marketing as a VP of marketing, you don't have passion. It's kind of a hard job to do. And so I hired a coach and fell in love with coaching, this thing called coaching way back in the day. And I had been searching for what was going to be my next step. And I was naturally coach-like with my 50 marketing managers that I had in all these shopping centers. That was the industry I was in. And so I went forward and got certified and just did the whole thing, plunged right in and started my own business and ended up coaching almost everybody in my initial, CTI class that I was in around their marketing and authentic marketing and attraction marketing, which is what I called it at the time. Yeah. And then now it's evolved over, getting ready to celebrate 25 years next year.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Wow.
thank you.
What, 25 years, it really is a massive achievement in the space of business, certainly when you look at the statistics. What has helped you, A, survive, and B, stay connected to your passion?
Great questions. And so it's, I think, the big thing is to realize that it's not like you figure out your niche and you figure out your business and that's it. That is never the answer. And it's like we know this logically when we look at other businesses, but we kind of forget it when it's just me and my solo entrepreneur kind of business. But we have to evolve as our clients do. We have to evolve as the world does. And I've hit several different big evolution paths. One of them was when I started my business. It was in reaction to, I was in corporate and I was traveling every single week and I was starting to have little kids. And that was an evolution path, a cycle, that I needed to change what I was doing. But then as I've been a coach, every time there's a big recession, or of course we're in this massive upheaval and disruption phase, I'll call it a phase, in our country and in the world. And that is impacting the coaching industry and it's impacting all of our individual businesses. And it's really tempting, right, to hide from that and think, or you turn it inward and say, what's wrong with me? How come I'm not getting clients, or why is it working? And what has to happen is you have to really start looking and saying, okay, what's going on with my people that I love to work with? What's going on with me and what's going on with the world? And where do I need to evolve to?
So you're talking is that it's been a big influence in the coaching industry, what's been happening. But in what way is it affecting coaches specifically?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things. I think there is a huge, some people call it a trust recession, but trust is huge right now, a lack of trust. And so, between AI, between the news media, between politics and economies, and we can't tell what's real, right? We can't tell what's happening. So I think that's one area. And so one of the places I've evolved to, like I just offered an intuition class, a 6-week training in intuition, because we need to go inside and be able to know what is our truth, right? Because we can't trust, in any given day, you can see news media and you can see the same exact article for totally opposite ends of the story, or AI, even my 80-year-old aunt has an AI profile picture on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, why are you doing that? So that's part of it, is that so much has happened who's happening in the outer world. But what's also happened is there's been so many people who call themselves a coach, and they're in all different kinds. Some of them are trained coaches, certified coaches. Some of them are really consultants. Some of them are trainers. Some of them are teachers, mentors. Like, there's so many things that are in the coaching industry. And I think there's a lot of people that have had some mixed or not so good experience with coaches. And I think that's coming back to to have people question. And people are just being more discerning about when they hire a coach. And so this is why it's so important to be putting your content out there, showing up, really sharing what your philosophy is, so that people can get to know you ahead of time, so that they really know what you're a stand for. That's more important than ever.
So it's like a cleaning that is happening within the industry. That's where
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. So that what is, because it's connected with the trust factor that you mentioned. Trust has
Mhm.
been really, really shot at. And at the same time, people have, certainly as coaching has become so mainstream in that sense, a lot of people have jumped on the wagon, but not being officially trained and so on, calling them so coach, but not having the experience, but also the knowledge that you need to be a coach. And I think that's what you say. What's happening with outside is also happening inside. And I think each coach
Right.
themselves can bring something to clean this up. That's what I see, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that all of that, and I also believe that the client market has gotten more sophisticated, and so it used to be, oh, I don't know what this coaching thing is. Wow, this is fascinating. Sure, let me hire you, kind of thing. And they were kind of enamored with that. And now they've got more sophisticated, and they're like, and more discerning about what kind of help do they want. Do they want straight up teaching and just to learn how to, or do they want more of an intimate experience, So a lot of that is all of us as coaches having to discern for ourselves, what kind of experience do we want to provide, and get really clear about that.
You being with a marketing experience, so for coaches who are in that situation, say, I need to be, because you said like in the beginning, oh, I have a niche and the specific, and I'm a coach and I'm going to have clients. Now it's, before you could be more general, now you need to be more and more specific. So how does
Mm-hmm.
that relate to have the right niche and making sure that what people want also connects with you as a coach? I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
explain myself.
Well, that's where I start with people. When I went through marketing in university a billion years ago, we started with, go out there, find a niche and figure out what they want. And it's not like that. You really, to have a sustainable business, you
Mhm.
have to really go inside and say, okay, what is it that I'm passionate about? And I call it soul work. What is my soul work? What is my creative brilliance? What am I really here? What are my gifts? And I do quantum human design. I use that a lot. And so I bring in, what is my design that I'm designed to do, and how do I bring my gifts out there? And then who can I best help? And so I look at, who it is that you can, and that knowing that it could evolve over time, you
Mhm.
know? The third piece I have a Venn diagram for this, but the third piece I look at is like, what's relevant and urgent right now? And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss, is because coaching can be, people want to step into their leadership, be a better leader, but they need the pain points in a way and the passion points. And so you've got to connect to, why is this urgent now? Why is it urgent that you learn your intuition, and bring intuition into your coaching, And so I bring that up as an example of, why is it urgent right now? Because we can't trust anything that's going on in the world, and we've got to use our own intuition with our coaching clients, but also with ourselves. Just one example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. One of the things that struck me as you were speaking, a lot of us as coaches get into coaching, and then we try to position coaching as the product.
Mhm.
And the way that you were articulating is, well, I've got to do my work as a coach, because actually I'm as much part of the product as the coaching that I'm doing. Is that what you're
Absolutely.
speaking?
Yeah. I, I, that's my approach, is that you are what people, are buying, and so yes, they're buying your solutions, but your solution could be similar to somebody else's solution. I mean, nobody's going to do it exactly like you, but that's part of it, is what makes you unique. Like I understand what it's like to be in corporate. I understand what it's like to go through all these buyouts. I've been in a burnout situation 3 times in my careers, and so I've learned a lot. And so now I have a program about burnout, right? So it's like you learn about yourself, and then that's what you're here to share. To me, it's like your gifts and your wounds, your challenges, and people come to you for that. They're not just. Um, and I think people have learned that as they are understanding the coaching industry, that you need to be with somebody that you're a match with. That's more important than ever.
Absolutely.
How because I see that a lot of coaches have that challenges, is to looking what my passion is,
Hmm.
what what is urgent right now, and they have difficulties to communicate it or putting the right words so that people would say, "Oh, that's what I need." I don't know
Hmm.
if you've seen that. How can I don't know if you
Sure.
work on this. How you translate what is a passion for you to what your clients would say, I want to work with you.
Yeah. So I do a few things with that, because it's really common, and I think coaches in general are so caring and heart-centered, that they don't want to overstep or overpromise or feel like they're bragging and things like that. But it really is, you guys are laughing at that, but it's like, I know you resonate with it, right? It's, and at the same time, you have to own your brilliance, in a way that's really authentic. And part of what I do is to help people look at what are their gifts of their experience. And we actually do a dive back over their life, and we look over their life, and they start realizing, wow, I have always been a leader, or wow, I've always been a troubleshooter, or I've always done this. And they start seeing the patterns throughout their life. So it's not something they're just passionate about in the moment, but they have real life examples and evidence of how this is true, or their strengths are true, throughout their whole entire life. And then as they're coaching, I encourage them to keep track of the results. And both the external results that, we've kind of been brought up to revere. How much money did you make, and things like that. But also the internal, the internal results, because that's what's going to lead to the external results, so I do a lot with the internal. And so a lot of what I do too is helping to um, get rid of the friction around sharing those things, right? So sharing your expertise, sharing your strengths, because we all have these ceilings of how visible are we willing to be, or are we willing to talk about it in a way that a lot of clients or coaches don't want to claim their results, because it's like, well, they did the work, and I didn't do the work. And it's like, yeah, but you opened up, or you held the container for them to do the work. And so there's a lot that we do with that, and helping them so they can legitimately and authentically, you know, um, claim the work. And I know this one because I had a coach who coached me on, I create the neighborhood, is what I call. I create your ecosystem for you to flourish. I'm not out there doing it, but we create this ecosystem for you to flourish. Yeah. And so that's something to own, but that's some work around owning that.
Just becoming the mayor of your own city, basically, and you build it.
Yeah, yeah. And having worked at shopping centers back in the day when they were really popular, we always had a mayor of the shopping center who would go around, and he thought everybody's business was his business, right? But he was always bringing us the issues, right? So, I mean, you need a mayor who's like the proponent for that. And you do have to find that authentic way of, how can you share that you have this certification, or you get these results, or you create an environment for your clients to flourish? Yeah.
Uh, and joyful business is the name. What role does joy and this soul work play in leading, creating, building a flourishing business?
Yeah, it's huge. So after I went through those 6 buyouts in 5 years, and I started my business, And I just knew that joy mattered. And this was back in 2001, right? Nobody was talking about this. And at the time, I was married to a banker husband. So I would go to Christmas parties and people would be like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have a company called Joyful Business." And they were like I had three heads or whatever. It was like, I don't understand. It doesn't compute, you know? And now it's like we're seeing how essential joy is to our lives, to our businesses. One way is I look at joy as the best creativity hack ever, right? It's like if you can be in your joy when you are writing an article, when you are doing a podcast, it's like you're going to have an energy that comes out and it's going to be easier to create, right? You're going to be more magnetic. To me, it helps do the work when you really aligned with your joy. It's like the special elixir, right? That makes your marketing go from ho hum to, oh, wow, that woman's really got this energy. And that presence that we were talking about earlier that actually makes you more magnetic. So to me, lining with joy is both a productivity tool, but also like, why wouldn't we want to align with her joy, right? Because otherwise you're showing up for a big part of your life and it's not really sustainable if you don't have any joy or passion or enjoyment with what you're doing. And I mean, there's times where you're just like, oh my God, these Zoom is going to upgrade one more time, and that's not very joyful, right? But it's overall, it's like, am I doing work that really brings me joy? And do I find ways of expressing myself in my marketing that feels in alignment with my soul? That's going to bring you more joy.
And
Right.
with joy,
So
I'm going.
I
And
was just
with
going to say, it's
joy,
definitely an untapped resource, for us as leaders in all industries to pay attention to the energy with how we manage our energy, because that's really where the inspiration, intuition, there's an expression of humanity through that. And if our stores are empty,
Right.
we can do the task. And if all we're doing is the task, then we're actually really easy to be replaced. There's that magic, that essence that does lie when we give ourselves permission to connect with and align with values, with strengths, with joy, with passion, with resonance, with energy. And as business owners, to give ourselves permission to prioritize that, I think
Yes.
is novel but really important.
Yes, absolutely. Because that is the secret to people hiring us rather than just going into their AI. And because I get some really good stuff out of AI when I'm looking for a quick coach hit, and it's like, but I've also asked AI, I've said, wow, that was so good. Are you going to replace me? And AI comes back and says something very similar to what you just said. Oh no, Laura, rest assured, you've got the empathy, you've got the presence, the passion. So to me, that's essential. And in all realistically, people do come to you for that, right? We're thirsting for that right now. We are thirsting for that real human connection, for people caring, to feel seen and heard, because that's not happening when we're just scrolling through Instagram or something.
Yeah, I'm seeing that more and more actually. There's a lot of my clients where it seems that the biggest value they're taking is connection and compassion.
Right. Yes.
And what we do kind of almost doesn't matter, but the fact that they're not alone as we're doing it changes everything.
Yes. Yeah. I have a lot of people who hire me, to help them for all the business reasons, right? And then when we're in there, and you guys probably have the same thing, we get in there and it's like they're going through a health scare, they're having a relationship issue. And I've done so much coaching around their presence, their voice, what do they really want in their life, their values, that all that changes and shifts. They go through health crisis in a way that they would have never gone through that healing path before. And that's like such a privilege to be able to do that. But it's hard to say that when you're like, oh yeah, I'm a business coach and I'll help you with your life crises, but these skills transfer, right?
It's interesting. It's almost off-putting if we articulate it, and yet it's often exactly why they're coming,
Right.
whether they
Right.
realize it consciously or not.
Yes. Yeah. Because that would be kind of weird to market that, at least at this point. We may in another year, that may be a real selling point the way things keep going. But I think but people feel it, right? I mean, I do free groups and I have people come and sometimes they come for the community. I think that's become huge. is they come because they want to be around other people who are like-spirited and committed to their values, committed to joy and business, and that there's possible to enjoy your life and do work that you love that has meaning and contribution. Yeah.
It's all these crazy ideas, but
Right. Start out as crazy ideas, and now it's like everybody's like, please, I want more joy.
well, exactly. I mean, by definition, in many cases, crazy is defined as not average, and average is in the middle. And really, who wants to be average?
Right.
And there's magic at the extremes, especially when we can align it in service of the environment that we're operating in.
Yes. Yeah. And what was crazy 5 years ago is like, oh yeah, of course we have joy in business. you know.
Why would you not?
Yeah.
I don't think you're too far, Laura, thinking about when listening to the conversation between you two, is that when you look at what's happening with AI, and that's all, if you look at it's all that external kind of thing going on, but that spiritual part is, I think, the key. And then I think in the future, as a coach, more, that's my point of view, and that's maybe what you say in a year or even less,
Mhm.
that spiritual, that human is, but also that spiritual kind of part that coaches give is
Yeah.
where people or coaches are going to come, or people are going to come to you, because they could ask, yeah, how do I need to do my marketing, and I don't know how can I be a great leader? Well, you nowadays AI can help you look with that, but it's that sparkle kind of thing that
Yes.
the coach is going to be able to say, and maybe the people are going to come, hey, I've been looking up in AI, that's what it is, but give me that spark, help me to find that spark.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because AI can tell you, and you're like, yep, yep, yep. But when you're with another human being who sees it, who acknowledges it, and really brings it out in you and kind of validates or gives you permission or whatever it is, or heal because you might see it and know it, but also heal that friction that gets in the way of, can I really put this out there? You know,
Mm.
that's really huge.
Absolutely. One thing that struck me, Erwin, as you were speaking, you used the term sparkle. And the image that I saw is, you can, if you got a candle, you can put another candle next to it. And in many ways, AI brings these other candles. But without a spark, nothing's going to light. And as I hear you and watch you talk, Laura,
Mm.
the spark inside us as a coach, as a leader, in many ways, that's what lights the spark of others, or at least gives permission for the spark of others to
Yeah.
kind of blossom. It was really interesting to see that.
I think that, it's that joy and that feeling of feeling creatively alive. And I think we are desperate for that, whether we realize it or not. I think we're waking up at different times to different parts of our lives, but even in our coaching business, it's like you might have been doing something that you had this joy for, and then it's kind of waned. I think that's happening for a lot of coaches right now. They're feeling burned out, or what got them excited, that spark's not there anymore. And now it's like, okay, so what's here now? Right?
You might be
What's here
thinking,
now, and how do I adapt to what's going on and what's going to come? Because a lot of people, like certainly coaches that being come from the consultancy environment and going, that it's a lot of knowledge that they have,
Yeah.
but that nowadays it's like, okay, I have to reinvent myself, and that's a
Oh, yeah.
challenge for many people because it change. People hate change, but that's
Yeah.
the way things just happen.
Right. You can go into AI and put in a marketing plan, put in your situation, and it's like, here's your marketing plan, here's the things you should go do. And all that's accurate, go and speak and go do a podcast and, create a signature program. We know the things, but it's that belief in yourself, and it's having somebody brainstorm with you or somebody see your brilliance and how you apply it to that. That's where the magic is. Yeah.
I've seen this with a lot of leaders that after a while, certainly with working with a coach or a mentor, it's like, I do not really need you, but I want you. So if I have something, I just gonna give you a quick call and ask you, hey, I want to share this. What do you think? So, and certainly for leaders, they're sometimes on the top alone. and they don't know who to
Right.
talk with, and being able to, and also for people that nowadays just thinking about AI, they ask things on AI, but I want to check that with someone who's going to not criticize me, but he's going to listen and is going to help me to see, understand.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think we need that because we don't get it, especially um, leaders who are in organizations where so many people are working at home, and they're working remotely. And so you don't always have that. Back in the day, I had the office that I went into in downtown Atlanta, and you had the water cooler talk, and you walk by people's desks and you brainstormed and you could throw out ideas. What do you think? And shape your idea, come back with your cup of coffee and a whole bunch of ideas and feedback. And now it's a little bit harder to do. We have to be more intentional and purposeful about that. And especially for coaches, because, most of us work at home, or have some sort of offsite, where we're alone or we're not, we don't have an organization like that. And so I know I have my tight knit group, and then I provide that for my clients. Where do you go to brainstorm and talk out these ideas? Yeah.
Good point. It's one of the skills that I see atrophying, sort of rusting, is, collaborative conversation, discussion. It seems that, so often we come together, this task agenda sort of overtakes everything. I've got to be polished. I've got to have my deck ready. I've got to know the answers.
Right.
Formality really inhibits a lot of the connection, but also the, Otto Scharmer talks about, the dialogue, the co-creative immersion dialogue. And I think there's just so much richness in that. But we don't get any space for that anymore because it's all, 5 minutes left of the meeting and we've got this. It's
Right. Yeah, I know. I just did a led a focus group for a company, and they were talking about they are scheduled. Sometimes they get scheduled 3 meetings at a time, and they're just back-to-back meetings. However much they can show up, and sometimes they don't even know what's going to happen in the meeting. And yeah, I think we're thirsting for that real connection, and sometimes we need it just to find our voice. We talk about as coaches being a leader and being out there as a creative thought leader with what is your philosophy about something, right? Your unique message. But we need spaces to be able to find that unique message. How do we actually talk about that? I know when right when the shutdown happened in 2020, actually started this daily Better Together group. And at first it was kind of like me providing inspiration and yeah, we're going to make it through this crazy thing, And about 3 months in, I realized it was wanting something different. There was something new emerging that for 20 years I had been this coach that was like providing everything. And what I realized was this was an opportunity to have different people in the group show up and lead and find their voice. And it ended up going on for the entire year. And then I finally was like, you guys have got this. And so they still are meeting to this day, 5 years. They just had an in-person retreat. But it was that idea that really got birthed of having these spaces where you can find your words, find your philosophy, find articulate what your values really are, not just on a piece of paper, but in the way that you show up or the way that you're bringing exercise to the group or something like that.
it's also a great place to contribute. It's something I keep seeing is this real consumer mentality.
Mm.
Even across coaches that, I've got to go, I've got to be a student, I've got to be a participant, I've got to be receiving. And yeah, a lot of the old school committees, for example, whether it was a sporting club or even a work committee, there's a lot of the volunteer effort, but there's the different roles, and it's that contributing to a community
Yes.
often adds so much more both value but also learning than just the almost the commercial receipt of or the download thereof. I think there's something so powerful about creating spaces where people can contribute, learn to contribute, and grow through contribution, like you're saying.
Yes, yeah. I do that more and more now with my clients where I see what their gifts are, and then I will bring them into my business to be like, "Hey, can you help with this?" And they'll lead the magic hour, that we do in certain groups and stuff like that because they're really passionate about it and they're really good at it. And it's like we need to collaborate in different ways. It doesn't always have to be just you providing everything and being the guru or the expert. Yeah.
It's also about what I picture right now is what happens nowadays when you turn up to places with other people, generally you come with a role, kind of specific role. And what people are seeking for some, it's just like to be authentic. I don't have to play that role. I can be there. And of course, you need to have a trusted environment for able to do that. So that's
Yes.
what we do as coaches as well, to generate that trust. But in a group, and that's what you mentioned as well, what you've been doing since 2020 with those groups, is that I sense that I can be authentic. And that is the moment where they really can go into themselves, because I don't
Yeah.
have to show up a certain role, and I don't have to behave a certain role, and I have to say, speak like a specific role. I can be me. And if I mess things up, it doesn't matter because I'm in a
Right.
trusted environment. I think that
Yes.
becomes more and more important.
Yeah, I do too. I think that, a big part of what we do as coaches is create these safe environments, these safe containers. And people don't get that at home or in a lot of ways, or they don't get that in their business or in their work. And so we provide that safe space for them to be able to show up and just try things on, and see who they are and kind of let down the mask and really get real. And that's being authentic. I think so often for years, we've talked about being authentic, but like, what does that really mean? And where can we really do that?
I
Yeah.
guess a wonderful question. I think too often we think of it as almost a powerful question in coaching, one that there's an answer to, rather than an inquiry.
Mm.
What does it mean to be authentic? Is a discovery journey, and I think there's to remember that, but also have the place to practice.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna wrap this up in just a second. Although this is a wonderful conversation that could definitely continue. One thing I'm curious about, and you may or may not have an answer to this. You've been in and around coaching for 20 more than 20 plus years, even being coached like, as a professional in marketing. Here we are, sort of 2025. What's catching your attention as you look forwards? What sort
Mm.
of opportunities that are starting to emerge that grab your eye?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm in a phase where I am pulling in different things into coaching and I don't have the clear vision. And that's the thing that, when I first started my business and with marketing and, for 15 years, we were like, create the vision and then here you go. And now it's like, we can't quite vision exactly what it's going to be like in 5 years. Like, we have no idea what the world's going to be like. And so that feels like that visioning has changed. And the visioning is more like, who do you want to be? And who are you becoming? And so I do a lot more work around like identity work and who are you becoming again with as you are becoming that person, what are the limiting beliefs, the friction, the resistance? And I'm doing so much more work around that and bringing in like quantum human design. So it's like, what's your natural design? So that and the bulk of my work is there rather than in what is your business model? Like we figure that out too, but it's like, it's to me, that's we're going more to this identity place and to the place of how to do meaningful work and what is my contribution. And that those feel like the topics that are up for all of my clients in all these ways.
A quick
What I
question, because you mentioned it a few times, and some people will maybe not know what it is. You mentioned quantum human design.
Mm.
In a short description, what is it? What is quantum human design, and what's the power behind it?
Yeah. So there's regular human design, which has been around for decades. And it's a combination of of different modalities that was brought together so that you can understand what you were naturally designed for. And there's 5 different types. Quantum human design takes that to like what is the awakened authentic self
Mm.
and has this, potential that you step into with that particular design. And so I use it to help people really discern how are they best designed to work, to create, to play, to rest, to make decisions, to how do they access their intuition. I'm getting ready to lead a class this afternoon, quantum human design, and how do you access your intuition? So it really is kind of this it's, to me, any assessments are really good. They give you some insights into yourself so that you can better create that environment, that ecosystem to flourish. So this is my favorite one.
That's fantastic. One really insightful thing that I've taken from what you're sharing is there's an opportunity for us as coaches and leaders to be preparing ourselves for the future that hasn't happened yet. And what I saw as you were speaking was we're no longer creating the future. It's almost like we need to be ready to create with the future.
Yes.
And that feels like a phase change. And we as coaches, we're in the place to lead that work for ourselves, to do our work, for us to continue to evolve, which was one of your success factors in your own business. And then, of course, to partner with others as we co-create their evolution. We then want to create the space for them to evolve, to be ready for what hasn't quite happened yet, but is about to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's such a huge amount of uncertainty about the future that we used to have back in the day when we could create, oh, the vision, I want to write a book and be on stage and have a full roster and all the things. Now we're like, I don't know what the world circumstances are going to be, but here's what I can control, or here's who I'm stepping into, and how do I be a person who can be with all this uncertainty and all the change and all the newness. Yeah.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for these insights and inspiring these thoughts. For those that would love to learn more, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on social media for sure, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. And also you can go to my website at joyfulbusiness.com. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for all those great discussions that we had, because it's really interesting. I would continue talking many
I
hours
know.
more
We could
about,
talk a long time.
yeah, for a long time. So maybe next time going on specifically. So thank you very much, Laura, and everybody else. Thank you for listening in. And until the next episode, take care and see you then. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.